Welcome to the Odd Dad Out podcast on day 4 of National Podcast Post Month. Is it? Yeah, day 4. I'm losing track of time already. Holy crap. And I gotta turn that down. Can I turn that down? Let's see. Does this get lower? I don't know if it's getting lower for you, but I'm gonna turn that down. Anyway, I'm still trying to figure out the controls on this to turn that volume down on that because of where it's triggered. And I'm half considering sending it over to my other machine here so I can actually turn that down. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, how's it going? So I decided today, because I haven't done one yet, I thought, you know what, might as well. I haven't done a garden update so far because, again, it's been 2 months from doing the main podcast, and so I decided to do this, and I was like, oh, I'm avoiding all the topics that I kept talking about, but it's been 2 months. So a garden update is somewhat justified. So, long story short, I think I kind of gave I don't know why I said that. I think I gave a brief kind of plan in my last made episode about what I intended to plant in the garden this year. And I'm not going to go back and listen to it to find out because we're doing this thing and we're turning and burning on these shows. But what I did end up planting is I've got one bed, tons of carrots in it. I just made a shit ton of carrots because every year I try and plant carrots, and I've had maybe one successful season so far. The other time where I was potentially going to have a good season and good carrot harvest, my dog decided she wanted to eat them all because, unfortunately for my garden, she really likes crunchy vegetables. So that year I had a bunch of celery that we had planted. I'd bought some like celery starts at Lowe's. It's Lowe's or Home Depot. And so I had 6 celery heads that were doing really good, and I was about to harvest them, and she ate them all. And I had a bunch of carrots that were doing really good, and she dug them all up and ate them all. In the same year, she also ripped down and ate all of our cucumbers, because that's kind of where her love of crunchy vegetables came from, that because we would toss her cucumbers and bits and pieces. And so, yeah, any of the crunchy vegetables that we grow, which is most of them, she would eat. So this year when I planted everything, I had like metal fencing or little trellis pieces or decorative, whatever, protection guarding, not quite using chicken wire because it's ugly, but having different sort of guards up to protect the garden from her, and just from when I first plant and her trampling around because it's fresh dug soil and she'll want to dig in it and roll in it. And so, yeah, I had all this protection up. Well, now I've got a good, healthy number of carrots, and I'm at the point where if you've ever grown carrots, you know you're supposed to, you plant a shit ton of them because they're really small seeds. It's really hard to kind of be precise with planting them. But you kind of plant a bunch in a row, and as they grow and get bigger, you're supposed to thin them out and kind of pull out some of them to space them out more so that you don't overcrowd them. Fuck that shit. I'm not bothering because I'll lose most of my carrots if I have to get rid of them for overcrowding. I'll let them bunch up and get whatever happens to them because I'll have carrots. That's all I care about. I'll have carrots. I don't care if they're ugly. I don't care if they bunch into each other. I have carrots. That's all that matters. In the same bed, I also have celery that I'm planting or planted from seed. Whereas the last time I planted celery and had celery growing, I had it growing from starts. So like little plants that had already kind of grown up a few inches, and transplanted those into my garden. And I was seriously questioned them for months because I'm like, I don't know if they're getting bigger. Is it going to really make celery? And it was months and months later, and holy shit, I have celeries. This is cool. I have celery. And then Mystic ate them. But now I have a bunch of little celery sprouts in my garden. I have a tiny little area because celery, you get so much celery out of one plant that I just I'm going to have a handful, a little corner of celery, and the whole rest of the raised bed is carrots. So I've got those going. And the celery at this point it's looking good. I'm just happy that, hey, I've got something growing. That's celery right there. That's going to be cool. In a few months, that should actually be celery. This is cool. Yay, celery. Not that I'm so excited for celery, but I'm growing something different than we normally grow. And then I'm excited to get carrots again, because the one time I did manage to harvest any carrots, they were really good and really sweet, and they were awesome. I loved it. Moving over, this is our second attempt at planting a rainbow sweet corn. If you're familiar with my usual winter garden, I usually plant popcorn this time of year. We have a rainbow glass gem popcorn that we usually grow. And last year we actually had a really good harvest. We had a ton of it. I still have a ton of it. And we put some up on Facebook Marketplace. People wanted to buy them. Didn't really get a lot of buyers. I'm thinking about going up and taking what we've got left, because it's basically been stored, and taking what we have, stripping all those cobs down, and then making cornmeal with them. Just, hey, do something with it, Probably save. I've got a bunch I could save for planting. Lots of stuff. I got tons. I can plant this stuff for days. We sold a little bit of it. Handful of people wanted them to plant. So we'll see what comes from that. But yeah, I'll probably strip down what we've got right now at the end of the year and grind it up into cornmeal and make cornbread or something from it. But next to that, I have probably a dozen, maybe, corn plants coming up, which I just had to fight a massive battle with caterpillars, because I get a lot of moths out here, and the moths love the fresh vegetables, especially the corn. I always have to fight with the corn. And when we had lettuce, it would get eaten up really bad by the caterpillars. Same, those little green caterpillars. And they'll get in your tomatoes really bad too if you grow tomatoes. Oddly, when we had tomatoes, I didn't get them on my tomatoes. We only ever really got them in the lettuce and in the corn. And you'll just go out and the corn leaves are just chewed up to pieces and covered in, caterpillar poop. And so I go out, take the hose, just full blast, and spray them down, rinse all the poop off until I get all the way down, and I'll kind of flood out the center of the corn stalks. And I have a little craft paintbrush that I use for pollinating some of the plants, like the cucumbers and things like that. And the melons that have the big flowers, and I'll use it, collect pollen, move it to one thing to another, and pollinate plants to get fruit and vegetables and whatnot. And so I'd take the back end of that little paintbrush and had to go in and fish the caterpillars up from the center of the corn stalks, which right now are only a couple feet tall, so they're easy to get into. But I'd flood them out and then pull these caterpillars out and chuck them off into the grass or the rocks or wherever. I don't care. I'm not going to actively kill you, but I'm getting you the fuck out of my plants. Stop eating my corn. And then, good. And I had to do that for all the individuals, because all of them were getting up. I had to go in and pull caterpillars out of every damn corn, and then sprayed everything down and made sure I got everything. And it's been about a week since I did that, and all signs look good that I don't have a problem anymore with caterpillars. They'll probably come back. They usually do. But at least right now I don't have any more caterpillars in my corn, and it's growing again and looks good. So, yay, corn. Right next to the corn, I have been trying like mad. I planted a ton of green beans right next to the corn, because green beans are really good for the soil. They're a nitrogen trap. They add nutrients back to the soil. So you really want to grow things like beans when you've run a lot of things like corn is a heavy nutrient drain. It needs a lot of nutrients to grow. So when you grow corn of any type, we've had sweet corn, we've had popcorn, it sucks a lot of the nutrients out of your soil. So you need to add more fertilizer and things like that to it, or plant things like beans and green beans that will add more of those nutrients back in naturally. So hey, we'll grow green beans, green bean casseroles and things like that come holiday time. But they just can't seem to grow. I had 3 little plots, a bunch of seeds there, so I'd have a bunch of plants to get a bunch of beans. And the first ones got trampled because my dog likes to jump in the dirt, and she trampled a bunch of them, and so okay, plant them again. And then one comes up. All right. But it's not looking so good. It's like, okay, well, I wanted 3. The others, I don't know what happened to the others, but okay, fine. One comes up, it's going, give it a little time. Nope, still got nothing. Okay, gave it another week, planted 2 more. Give it some time. That first one that was looking kind of weak still hasn't grown hardly at all. And I get like one little shoot from another one. And then it got trampled and died. I'm like, all right. So I give up. I pulled that first one that was looking weak, and the other one died. I was like, okay, fine, screw it again. I'm going to try 3 more full. I had plant 2 more beans in 3 more holes. And I got to get something here because I've got 6 beans planted right now in 3 holes. We're going to get something. One of them comes up. Okay, great. One of them comes up. It starts growing. Nothing from either of the other 2. I'm like, what the hell? That one's growing. It's okay. Looking okay. It's coming up. Fine. Out of 6 beans, 1 sprouted. What the hell? Anyway, it's like, okay, give it another week. Still nothing. Plant back again. 2 more holes of beans. Like, I need more than 1 plant. I need to have 2 or 3 plants growing to get anything up. It's like, all right. Finally, I get another sprout of and 1 more green bean plant. But that other one that started the first time, or that other one that I had planted before that came up, wasn't getting any bigger. So we go out and look one day, and look, and it's kind of just sitting there. Granted, it's a plant, it's just going to sit there anyway. But I'm looking at it, and I realize that it's been bent over. And the main stem had snapped, and it was only holding on by like a little bit on the back end, which is why it didn't die when it snapped. It was getting just enough water and nutrition to stay alive, but not enough to grow anymore. So, poop. So much for that one. Had to toss that out. I got 1 more green bean sprout that's come up. So I've got 1. I'm giving up on planting anymore because it's so late in the season. I've got nights in the 40s now. It's going to be too cold to start anything at this point. I don't know if the beans I even have that are coming up are going to get big enough and actually produce anything. We'll see, but that's what it is. In my last bed, I have just a shit ton of cucumbers. I just planted a whole bed of just cucumbers. I had a few that snapped or wilted or whatever, then I was like, okay, fine. But I've got 4 really good cucumber plants right now. Whole raised bed full of cucumbers. Looks really good. They're doing great. They've grown to the point where they're up on the trellis, and they're starting to climb the trellis now. Because I trellis my cucumbers so that they're easier to pick and they aren't on the ground getting dirty and stuff like that. So they're doing good. Well, say probably about a week now. About a week ago, I was just planning, I was going to make dinner. Straight up. I was going to make dinner, was going to make my famous roasted potatoes. And I went into the pantry and pulled out my bag of potatoes. And I hadn't made potatoes in a while. And I had an entire bag of potatoes that were sprouted. So rather than throw them away, I just kind of went out into the yard. I grabbed my garden spade and just started digging holes. Like, okay, well, I've got a space here over by the green beans. Potato. Went over by the cucumbers. Potato. Just started dropping potatoes all over the gardens wherever I could find a hole to put them. So do I have space here? Okay, potato. Space here, potato. So now I've actually got 5 potato sprouts that have come up. So I've got 5 potato plants coming up. And if it's any sign, my results in the past, I usually get between 3 and 5 potatoes whenever I plant them. I grow Yukon Golds because that's just what I tend to buy. So whenever I grow potatoes, I get Yukon Golds, and I don't let them get very big because I like to I like to cook them while they're really small. So I don't, if I don't know how big they'll get. If I think this year I might actually leave them in the ground and like full period, because you can harvest potatoes early while they're small, or you can wait until the plant grows all the way up, dies back, and then you can harvest them. I did see a video recently that said, hey, if you want to store them and you don't have like a root cellar or anything, you can just leave them in the ground. But that's also how they get eaten by bugs or just start growing again. If you forget a potato in the ground, it can just reseed itself. So I don't know if you can hear my cat Fluffy just jumped up on the table here. Okay. Bye, Fluffy. All right. But now I've got, so running it back, we've got carrots, celery, potatoes, cucumbers, and rainbow sweet corn growing right now. Is that everything? I technically have green beans, but I don't expect anything to come from the green beans. So, yeah, I'm excited. And our lemon tree is actually, we've got maybe a dozen, I think, lemons on it right now that are turning, that are actually ripening right now, that in the next week or two should be ready to pick, which is really cool. We've only ever managed to get maybe 2 or 3 lemons off of it, because when we planted it a few years ago, it was a really small tree. It's, takes time to really root and really produce fruit, and it's had a really good year. And so it's bushed out a lot, and we got a lot of lemons on it this year. So next couple of weeks, we should have lemons, which would be really cool, have our own lemons. But that's kind of it as far as the garden goes. I still don't know how I'm going to end these things. The problem is not ending them. The problem is ending them with the sounds and effects that I have available to me. That's what it is. But I hope you're enjoying all this. I've put out word on the interwebs, on my Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, all at Odd Dad Out. Because I haven't been dropping the website or the social media or any of that. OddDadOutPodcast.com. The pinned tweet on my Twitter at Odd Dad Out has a link to the website where all of the episodes are posted. You can subscribe to the show on the website. You can go join the Facebook group. Lots of stuff. I haven't talked about it in this because I talk about it so much on the regular show. Big ol' long spiel. I've already been going on for almost 20 minutes. So yeah, I need to get out of here. This is way longer than I planned, but when I talk about the garden, that just happens. Sorry. I'm going to be more brief. I have an idea coming up. I have some books that I think I want to read that are just going to be fun. So just fun kind of somewhat kids storybooks that I think are just going to be fun to read. I have some listener fan questions that of topics to discuss. So I'm going to have that coming up in the coming days and weeks and everything, because I'm trying to fill out 30 days. I'm going to get this done one way or another. But right now I'm getting out of here because, like I said, I've already talked way longer than I normally plan to for these things. And it's only day 4 and I'm already running into 20 minutes. I can't do it like this. I need to keep them short. Keep them simple, stupid. Yeah, that's it. So, how loud is it? See, when I start talking, it gets quiet. But anyway, until next time, thank you and good night.